Welcome to Detachment Diaries. This channel is about situationships, emotional patterns, and personal growth. I share stories from my past, not to shame anyone, but to understand myself and learn. If you relate to patterns of attachment, ambiguity, or emotional cycles, you're in the right place. There was a moment in 2023 where I genuinely believed something was wrong with me. Not in a dramatic way, but in that quiet, painful way where you start questioning your worth. Because within 1 month, 3 different guys rejected me. Three. And if you've ever gone through rejection, you know one can already hurt. But when it happens repeatedly in such a short time, your brain doesn't see it as coincidence anymore. It starts looking for patterns. And the easiest pattern to blame is yourself. At that point, I was already used to dating. I had gone through situationships, casual connections, people coming and going. But something about that month really broke me emotionally. It felt like rejection was coming from every direction. And I remember thinking to myself, what is wrong with me? Why does this keep happening? Am I doing something wrong? And slowly, the thoughts got darker. Not in a dangerous way, but in that hopeless kind of way where you start believing a very painful story. The story that maybe you're just undateable. That month was the closest I've ever felt to an emotional breakdown. I was crying almost every day, not just small moments of sadness. I mean full crying sessions where you just sit there and let everything out. And there's one detail from that time that really shows how bad it got. There were nights where I would cry myself to sleep, and I started putting a towel on my pillow to soak up my tears. That's how much I was crying during that time. Looking back now, it almost feels surreal. But when you're inside that emotional storm, everything feels overwhelming. Every rejection feels like confirmation of your worst fears. And the hardest part wasn't just the sadness. It was the hopelessness. Because heartbreak doesn't just hurt your feelings. It starts messing with your beliefs about the future. You start thinking things like, maybe love just isn't meant for me. Maybe everyone else finds their person except me. I'll die alone and single. And once those thoughts enter your mind, it's very hard to shake them off. Because your brain starts collecting evidence to support them. Every failed connection, every unanswered message, every rejection, suddenly it all feels like proof. During that time, I was journaling constantly. And when I say constantly, I mean every day, sometimes multiple times a day. Pages and pages. I've gone through notebooks of it. And a lot of those entries were honestly just me pouring my heart out to God. I remember writing things like, please release me from the pain. I'm so tired. I don't want to feel like this anymore. If I'm meant to be alone, please just help me accept it. At one point, I even wished I could just feel numb. Because feeling everything so intensely was exhausting. It felt like I was stuck in a cycle. Wake up sad, try to distract myself during the day, cry again at night, repeat for weeks. And if you've ever been in a place like that, you know something interesting happens. At first, you blame everyone else. Then you blame yourself. But eventually, you start asking deeper questions. And that's exactly what happened to me. After weeks of crying and journaling, I found myself asking something different. Instead of asking, why does this keep happening to me? I started asking, Why do I keep ending up in these situations in the first place? That question changed everything because suddenly the focus shifted. It wasn't just about the men anymore. It was about my patterns. Around that time, I started reading a lot of psychology and self-help books. Books about attachment styles, books about trauma, books about relationship patterns. And slowly, things started making sense. I started recognizing parts of myself that I had never questioned before, like how I was often attracted to emotionally unavailable people, or how I sometimes ignored red flags because I really wanted things to work, or how rejection hit me so deeply because it triggered old wounds. And those realizations were uncomfortable, but they were also incredibly powerful. Because for the first time, I wasn't just reacting to heartbreak, I was understanding it. And I want to pause here for a second because this is important. When people talk about self-reflection, it's easy to misunderstand it as blaming yourself. But that's not what this is. Self-awareness is not about saying, everything is my fault. It's about saying, let me understand my patterns so I can make better choices. And that's a huge difference. Because once you see your patterns, you gain the power to change them. Slowly over time, I started doing things differently. I started setting better boundaries. I stopped making excuses for inconsistent behavior. I paid attention to red flags earlier. I started being more honest about what I wanted. And maybe the biggest shift was this. I stopped measuring my worth based on whether someone chose me. Because before, rejection felt like proof that I wasn't enough. But now I see it very differently. Sometimes rejection isn't about your worth at all. Sometimes it's just misalignment. Two people who simply aren't meant to walk the same path. And that's okay. Looking back now, that crashout era in 2023 was incredibly painful. I wouldn't wish those weeks of crying on anyone. But strangely enough, it was also the beginning of real healing for me. Because it forced me to confront things I had been avoiding for years. My insecurities, my attachment patterns, my need for validation. And once I started working on those things, my perspective on dating slowly started changing. Today, I can honestly say I'm in a much healthier place emotionally. Not perfect, still learning, still growing, but definitely more grounded than I was back then. And that month where everything felt like it was falling apart, it ended up becoming one of the most important turning points in my life. So if you're watching this right now and you're in your own version of a crashout era, maybe you're facing rejection, maybe you're crying more than you'd like to admit, maybe you're questioning your worth, I just want you to know something. It doesn't mean you're broken. It doesn't mean you're unlovable. And it definitely doesn't mean you're going to end up alone. Sometimes, the seasons where everything feels like falling apart are actually the seasons where you start rebuilding yourself in a healthier way. Because healing is messy, is not aesthetic. Sometimes it looks like journaling at 3 a.m. Sometimes it looks like crying into a towel on your pillow. But if you stay curious about yourself, if you keep trying to understand your patterns, eventually those painful seasons turn into growth. And one day, you'll look back and realize that your crashout era was actually the moment everything started changing.